Yeah, not the best day at the office for Chelsea. Scott Minto back with us to just go into that a little bit deeper. You over it? Or was it all right? No.
Can we move on? No.
I mean, it's not the end of the world. They've still got a chance, haven't they? Of
course, and you know, I certainly expect them to go and beat Tunis in the last game. The problem is that there's every chance that they'll be playing Bayern Munich in the round of 16, which obviously be tough. But you can turn around and say, well, look, in any knockout stage, you have to beat the big boys if you're going to win a competition. But yeah, it wasn't just the heat and humidity. It was just lack of concentration, just really poor goals to concede. And you know, you 1-0 up. Didn't play particularly well. Certainly weren't the better side in the first half. But I'm sort of thinking, like, I'm interested in whether people want to sort of text in or whatever and give us their opinions. I'm getting the feeling that Enzo Maresca is very much Marmite still. And I think he's done a great job in terms of finishing fourth and also winning the Europa Conference League as well. But I do understand where some of the fans are coming from in terms of certain decisions he made. Like, you know, Reece James to me is a quality player and a world-class right back, but he's not a world-class centre mid. And I was saying at half-time, look, Romeo Lavia needs to come on. He can help control the game a lot more. And then 2 goals in 4 minutes, and you're thinking, well, are they going to bounce back from this? And of course, just a few minutes later, Nicolas Jackson does what he does on his birthday as well. And it's just like, what are you doing? By
the way, it was a shot. I mean, what was he thinking?
Well, that's the problem. I don't think he was. And when you've got the kind of red mist, it wasn't even as if he'd been on the pitch for very long, so been able to develop a real battle with one of the defenders in the way that Liam Delap did as well with one of their defenders. A real good battle, I have to say, in the first half, a physical one. There wasn't enough time for that. So he kind of lost control a little bit of ball, or someone got a little bit of a touch on it. And the way he went over the top, it's like, what are you thinking? And he's apologised afterwards, but you know, there's this battle now going on between him and Liam Delap, where it might even be a case of Liam Delap wins, even if he doesn't play particularly well, because he's the one who can only be trusted. And Delap is the one who plays very much on the edge all the time. You know, Nicolas Jackson got sent off against Newcastle. You're thinking, okay, you really put your team in it, and the team did really well to finish fourth. So what are you going to do now? You're going to learn from it? And he goes and does that 4 minutes in, on his birthday. So how can Enzo Maresca rely on him? I like him. I think he's a really good player. He'll never be the kind of finisher of Alan Shearer, Michael Owen, Robbie Fowler, but he can be an absolute handful. Score goals, make assists, like he did in the first game as well in the first half. But if you can't rely on a player, then how can you even say he starts, and how can you rely on him coming off the bench? They were down to 10 men.
Yeah, Nicolas Jackson reportedly linked to Napoli. I feel like everybody's linked to Napoli at the minute, and also Juventus keen on him as well. Do you think he'd be better suited to Serie A?
No, I wouldn't say better suited. I like him. I mean, look, you've got Nicolas Jackson, and I get the Liam Delap deal. It's a no-brainer, £30 million for the talent that he's got. But you're still buying potential, and I wanted to see Chelsea buy ready-made, a goalkeeper, a centre-half and a centre-forward. Ready-made, senior pros that can make the big difference. Don't forget, Shebahn, they had the youngest average starting 11 by 18 months per person in the Premier League, and the youngest average 11 ever in the history of the Premier League. So they needed some experience, but £30 million is an absolute no-brainer. Now it looks like the question is not the two of them together in terms of one or the other. It's actually, do we try and sell him and bring someone else in? They have to bring someone else in if they do get rid of him. And even if they don't, I'm not quite sure they've got enough strength and depth up front to get to where they want to, which is try and fight for the Premier League, do well in the Champions League, at least finish in the Champions League places again after what's happening in this particular competition. And I do worry a little bit for Chelsea next season.
So would it be disappointing then after, you know, winning the Conference League, qualifying for the Champions League, to kind of crash out of this competition? Or do you think not many people will, I hate this word, but maybe care?
No, I think they'll care. And the owners will care. Don't forget there's £100 million to be earned in this particular tournament. I mean, I always try and turn every negative into a positive. And let's just say they didn't even get past the group stages. Well, at least you could then say, right, go and have 2 weeks off, 3 weeks off, go and rest. So for the Premier League, you should be absolutely ready for it. But I'm telling you now that the pressure will crank up on Enzo Maresca. It's not good enough to not finish, to not qualify from the group stages. It's almost not good enough to not get past the round of 16. But if you're finishing second and playing Bayern Munich, there's every chance that could happen. That is going to be one heck of a game.
How do you think the players feel about it, Scott? I mean, Pedro Neto saying he would rather be fighting for Chelsea than sunning himself on a beach. They want to be in this competition. The players want to be there. But a bit like Rory McIlroy last week at the US Open, you know, it's easier to play a certain way when you'd rather not be somewhere. Do you think these players genuinely are? They're burnt out and they're going, if we don't make it to the next stage, is it all that bad?
Do you think if we'd have done this as an OB and we got him off the records and with a glass of Whispering Angel there and say, right, Pedro,
so,
where would you rather be?
Tell me everything.
Look, what do you expect him to say? You know, publicly speaking, he's got to say this is what we want. I think if you spoke to them privately, they'd be saying, look, we need a rest.
Yeah.
You know, not just in terms of just being on the beach, but just mentally as well as physically, we need a rest. But absolutely, he's not going to turn around and say, yeah, I want to be on the beach in a public way. And you know what? They're in this tournament now, so why not be in it to win it?
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.
Scott Minto, just coming back to the Chelsea discussion then, if they are to let Nicolas Jackson go or get some money for him while they can, who would you like to see come in? Have you got anybody in mind? Well,
then you get the likes of, you know, the teams that Arsenal and United are fighting for, the Gyökeres, the Seskos, the Osimhens maybe. I know he's had a bad injury last season, but they're the type of players that now come into play. And because Chelsea can offer Champions League, then there's every chance of the way they structure the contracts, you know, and the way they got Mudryk over Arsenal.
Yeah.
You know, why can't they nip in and get someone like that? Yeah,
really good vibe.
Yeah, not very good. It could be banned for the next 3 years. But
4 years.
But still, no one knows the future, Shebahn. So, but I still think that's a possibility. And you know what? Again, I've defended Nicolas Jackson for a couple of seasons. I don't think he's going to be guy to take Chelsea to the Premier League title, but I do think he's an absolute handful. And his goals, he still gets double figures and is still pretty decent considering. He needs help. He needs someone alongside him, to replace him coming off the bench or vice versa, like a Liam Delap. But if Chelsea were to sell him and get one of those players in, game on.
No, I think you make a very good point.
As well as
that.
Goalkeeper. They need a keeper in my
So they've
opinion.
ended the pursuit of Magnon, right? That's not happening.
Allegedly. I'd be really surprised if that's the case. And they've come out and said they're happy with who they've got. Well, you're not, because you were chasing Mike Maignan, and if Milan had given you the price that you wanted, then you would have brought him in. So clearly you're not happy with the goalkeeper. And as much as he has improved, and he's not messing around at the back so much, he's still not, for me, again, the goalkeeper that will take Chelsea to a Premier League or Champions League title. So just go an extra few million for Mike Maignan. The goalkeeper role is so underrated. Yeah. It really is. It's so important. You win games in both boxes, keeper, defence, and obviously strikers as well. So we have to wait and see what happens with the striker, but got to get another keeper, in my opinion. And you mentioned the how young this squad is, but the future looks bright for them as well. I mean, how far off are you thinking they are for the title challenge? That's the question, isn't it? Because they keep on buying youth. They keep on doing it year after year, so they're kicking the can down the road. So at what point are you saying, okay, we've got the players that we want, that we can help develop for the next few years. Now we need to sprinkle those senior pros. Mike Maignan would be one. They don't want him. Liam Delap is not that person, but I do get the signing. And then where else? Yeah. You know, they need a centre-half as well, in my opinion. So I think next year is going to be so difficult because this season just gone, Chelsea were combining the Premier League with the Conference League, which, with the greatest of respect, is the equivalent of like League One teams. So their only really difficult game was the final, and it was very difficult, and they did well to turn it around, and Cole Palmer was superb in that second half. But to combine Premier League and Champions League, plus after what's happened this summer as well with the Club World Cup, when they're already going to be going to the season tired, they need some quality players and some senior players. So yeah, let's wait and see in recruitment. I don't like what they're saying about they're not going to get Maignan and maybe more youngsters.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.